Welcome to Surrender School.
Hope we can have a little conversation at the end. I'll do my little spiel, but I hope we can have a conversation about this topic in a kind of way. Let me explain. Right, I am trying to really do a deep dive into the mental obsession, and that's what I'm trying to do right now. And because I'm hoping that I'll have something ready for January of 2026 to do a workshop on the mental obsession. And what I'm not explaining this very well. Okay, so I am interviewing folks that sign up to be interviewed, and talking to them about relapse and about what led to relapse and all that stuff. And what I'm really trying to get at is the mental obsession has been the bane of my existence. I mean, the physical allergy is bad enough, but even when I get really clean, like physical allergy wise, but the mental obsession is just an ass kicker, and I just want to learn more about that for us, for people with food issues. So, yeah. So because oftentimes this is our first addiction. Even if we go on to develop others, this one happens really early because it's something that we have available to us as kids. And drugs and alcohol are not usually available until you're into your teens. And so this is like the first thing we do. And I don't know about you guys, but it really short-circuited my my emotional competence. I don't know how else to say it. Like emotional self-regulation, learning how, emotional intelligence, competence, whatever you want to call it. It got short-circuited just because I found food so early, and that was my go-to. So today we're going to talk about emotional discomfort and abstinence. At Surrender School, we recover. Our mission is to share 12-step and other supportive recovery solutions with those who want a healthy relationship with food. We are not an official 12-step meeting, but we do try to adhere to the spirit of the tradition. If Surrender School has helped in your recovery at all, please consider donating. We have a donate button at the bottom of our landing page on our website. All right, let's take a moment, come into the room. Even though I gave you a little taste of where we're going before we did this, let's kind of come back into the room, come back into ourselves from the day. Take a couple of deep breaths. Feel your feet on the floor. Be really present. God, help us to set aside everything we think we know to leave space for what we have yet to learn. Okay. So we all know that we are emotional eaters. I mean, all of us are, and we know that. We know that. Intuitively, we know that. We eat to get away from our emotions. And when I thought about that, it's not really that we're eating to get away from the emotions per se. We're eating to stop the discomfort that comes with the emotion. So, I'm geeky, so I wanted to look up what are emotions? What is the definition of emotions? And the American Psychological Association had a rather technical and complex definition, and I'll read it to you, but I came up with one that I liked better. So this is the APA's definition. Emotions are conscious mental reactions, such as fear or anger, subjectively experienced inside as strong feelings, usually directed to a specific object outside of ourselves, and typically accompanied by physiological, the body, and behavioral changes. Okay? That seemed a little technical. So the definition that I like that's less complicated, and I think it gets to the point, is emotions are strong feelings like happiness, sadness, anger, or fear that people experience in response to events or situations. Now, this brings up an interesting point because both of these definitions talk about emotions being experienced in response to something outside of us. And I'm not entirely certain that's true, because I can like I can have really serious nasty emotions sitting all by myself. And then it's not directed at anyone else. Often it's directed at myself. So maybe that counts. Um, but I guess yeah, I'm not sure I buy that one. So let's keep going, and you can tell me whether you buy that too or not. So I think emotions are both instinctual and learned. Okay, I think we have instinctual emotions that really helped us from an evolutionary standpoint to survive as a species. So they're instinctual and they serve a really good purpose. And then we have a whole bunch of learned emotions that we learn growing up from our culture, from our parents, from our school, from our religion, from everywhere. We learn these things. And to me, those almost seem like the harder ones to deal with, because they're usually like instinctual emotions are much more about, oh, I'm going to get eaten by this animal. I'm afraid and I'm going to run away. Okay, there's no character judgment in that emotion. There's no negative character judgment of myself. But the learned emotions, to me, carry a lot of baggage of negative pronouncements about myself, or how I'm lacking, or how I'm broken, or how I'm wrong. And those, to me, are much harder to deal with. So we are typically aware of emotions as we have them. And again, I take a little issue with this because, yes, I know I'm uncomfortable, but I don't always know what that emotion is. Like, I can't label it. I know I'm uncomfortable, but what is it exactly that I'm feeling? And that has taken a lot of practice for me to get to a point where I'm able to name it. That has taken me a long time. Now, and it's also important to recognize that everyone has their own personal emotional reaction that might not be the same as the person standing next to you. I mean, two people can experience a situation and each one has different emotions attached to it, which explains why when you talk to your sibling and you're talking about, do you remember this happening when mom or dad or somebody did this? And it was like no big deal to them and it crushed you. And that it's very, very personal. And I think that has to do with these kinds of filters, these learned filters we have about ourselves. And so we experience that emotionally based on the filter we have about ourselves, how we see ourselves. Now, I can honestly say that I have not been a fan of emotions, and they have driven most of my eating behavior, is my discomfort with my own emotions. When emotions, and you can even tell by the language I'm going to use, when emotions strike me, um, it feels out of control to me. Emotions often feel out of control. And that scares me, being out of control. And I'm often blindsided by them. Like I'll have this heavy duty emotional reaction and I will have no idea where it's coming from, what it's attached to, what the history of it is. I won't even know that. And like I said earlier, before we started today, I mean, my food addiction started at about age 7, and I'm now 61. I have been eating to get away from or stuff down emotions for almost my entire life. I learned at a very early age that food can make me feel better, period. Can make me emotionally feel better. It could take away the fear. It could take away the depression. It could take away the anxiety. As long as I was eating, I felt better. Now, after I became fat, like around age 8 or 9, the food still took away the painful emotions. But then as soon as I stopped eating, the self-disgust, would start to come in. And then, of course, I wouldn't feel better anymore. And the only thing that got rid of the self-disgust, the pain of the self-disgust, was just to eat more. So it was just this cycle that I ran in daily, daily. Now, why did I learn this? Why did I learn that food takes away emotional pain? And why did I keep using it for most of my life? And I will tell you, I used it because it worked. It worked. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, our effect is our effect, and it worked. I mean, and there are all kinds of neurochemical reasons why highly processed, calorie dense foods work. They know very well why it works now. Now, not only does the food cause a release of dopamine and pleasure chemicals in our brain, our effect, but these kinds of foods make stressful situations seem less stressful. We perceive stressful situations as less stressful when we have our alcoholic foods on board, because neurochemically, these foods oppose the action of our threat response system in our brain. They literally turn down the volume of perceived threat for us. If you're nerdy and you want more detail about this, in my 4th and 5th step 1 science sessions, I go into great painstaking detail. Okay, fine. But I want to be abstinent. So how am I going to deal with these emotions and the discomfort that they cause me? Because as long as I'm alive, I am going to have emotions. If I knew the answer to that, I would be a billionaire and I would own my own island. The truth is, at least from what I've found, is there's no way to do life abstinently with no discomfort, because I think there's no way to do life without discomfort. I mean, forget even that you're an addict. For non-addicts, there's no way to do life without discomfort. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you some of the different ways I have navigated this emotional discomfort. Maybe they'll work for you, maybe they won't, but I'm just throwing them out as examples, and I'm throwing spaghetti on the wall, people. We'll see what sticks. Okay, so the first thing I had to figure out is that my emotional discomfort will not kill me. And I'm not being facetious here. I was really afraid. The emotions were so strong that I was really afraid they would literally destroy me if I really let them out and processed them. Like, I don't know if I thought my head would explode or what, but it felt like they would destroy me because they were so powerful. So, as I've said before, I grew up in a violent home. I was taught through experience that having, and God forbid, expressing emotions was literally dangerous to me. You could get beat up in my house for that kind of stuff. So, my belief that my emotional discomfort could destroy me was both literal and figurative. I will tell you that it has been quite a journey for me. I started by working the steps. That's where I started. I started by working the steps, and I worked them over and over and over again. And I got deeper each time I did it. I understood a little bit more what we were getting at through these steps. And I went deeper each time. Then in my 50s, took me a long time. I'm a slow learner. Then in my 50s, I got into therapy and did some more work. Then I worked the steps again. And it was really interesting. I had much better access to my emotions and to my history and to getting at the patterns that we talk about getting at in steps 4 through 9. We're really trying to get at our patterns of behavior. And having done the steps a bunch of times, doing some therapy, and then doing the steps again, it was very revelatory. It was really an interesting process. Now, recently, last summer, was it last summer? Yeah. Or the summer before. I got blindsided by an emotion that I had never been able to work on, and that was rage. Rage is not pretty. No one wants to be around you when you're working on rage. It's not cool. And I can tell you, I didn't want to be around me. I got back into therapy, and I have never worked so hard in my life and been so incredibly uncomfortable as when I was working with rage. I was really lucky because I found someone who could handle it. There are some therapists are good at some stuff, some therapists are good at other stuff. And, in order to work on rage, you really have to find someone who is comfortable enough with rage that they won't try and package you up and make it all nice and make it go away because they're uncomfortable with it. So I lucked out and I found someone that could handle it, which was really good. I can assure you, since I'm here to tell the tale, that I survived the discomfort of all of this work. And there are several takeaways from all of this, and I'll share those with you. 1, working the steps over and over again allows you to go deeper each time, and you get to know yourself and your emotions better each time. 2, when you bump up against childhood drama, don't be afraid to get outside help. The steps and our sponsors are wonderful, but they're not professionals. And the big book tells us to utilize professionals. And I think we need to let ourselves do that, give ourselves permission to do that. Third thing is working the steps over and over also helps with awareness, better self-awareness, period. But with regard to emotions, it let me get a lot better at naming them. And by working steps 4 through 9 and 10 and 11 on them, I am much more comfortable than I've ever been in the emotional realm. Like when I bump up against an emotion, I'm aware of it. I'm usually able to name it. And then I can either go to my higher power with it, or I can go to my God squad with it. And so I'm more comfortable actually working with the emotions. Not all the time, but much more than I was. And of course, the annoying thing about this whole thing is it's not a one and done thing. It never is. Nothing in program is a one and done thing. It's just not, or at least that's my experience. So it's a practice. It's a practice. We get better at it. We aren't knocked off balance as often. Um, we're able to see, we get to come to see our emotions as sources of information. They're not just things that knock us over or get us off balance or anything like that. They are also really important sources of information. Sometimes they're true and they're letting us know something, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes we do a lot of mind reading and we have all these emotions because we are mind reading other people, thinking we know what they're thinking about us. And then we have a whole emotional reaction to something that's completely made up. So they are pieces of information, they are data. Emotions can be data. I also work very closely with my higher power on emotional discomfort. Um, Most of what I'm asking for with my higher power is guidance, clarity and guidance. Clarity, what is this really about? Is this really true or is this not? And what am I going to do about it? And one of the things I've had to give up asking for, um, because I think it goes against the natural laws of the way that my body and brain work, I've given up asking that it be taken away, because that's just the way this whole system works. And what I really want is I want to get clear about it. I want to learn from it, and I want to move through it, um, so that there's some kind of resolution. Because my go-to was stuffing it down or escaping from it through food. And so this is a whole different way of life for me. And one of my another favorite quote that I like from Mark Devine, who was I think it was a Navy SEAL commander. And one of his things that I love is embrace the suck. Embrace the suck. So there's also a great quote from Muhammad Ali, um, that that talks about a little bit of a different aspect of emotions. He says, quote, "It isn't the mountains ahead to climb that wear you out. It's the pebble in your shoe." I am great in a crisis. When the shit hits the fan, I am great at that. But get a flat tire or have the wireless not work, or my internet goes down and I am bereft. I am a puddle on the floor. So the things that cause me trouble are more of the daily frustrations, the trivial fears. Things like that cause me a lot more problems than a big crisis. And I think, and I'm guessing, that for me, this is a fundamental step 3 issue that I have to deal with. The underlying belief here for me is this: whatever that is happening that is upsetting me, this shouldn't be happening to me. This shouldn't be happening to me. Well, why the hell not? Everybody gets flat tires. Everybody's internet goes down. Why shouldn't it be happening to me? I've really had to let go of the expectations around life that it's supposed to go smoothly for me. I don't think we're supposed to do a smooth life. I mean, if you want to get really snarky, I mean, can you imagine how boring a smooth life would be? Um, the only way we appreciate, the calm times, the smooth times, the peaceful times, is that we have something to compare them against. Getting your flat tire, having your internet go down. That's the only way we know. So yeah, to me, handling the day-to-day petty emotions is actually the graduate level work of emotional work. That's graduate level stuff for me. Okay, I got a question for you. Okay. What are your biggest emotional triggers for overeating binging? And are there any other ways that you can take care of yourself emotionally around those triggers other than food? So, what are your biggest triggers? And is there anything else you can do to soothe yourself or to get through it without eating? All right. I'll set the timer for 5 minutes and I'll see you in 5 minutes.
Thanks for recovering with us.